was wondering, you saw the show at the NHK Hall the other night there, and you noticed that it was completely different from the last tour. So, from the way you sort of conducted yourself, your actions, the things you said. It seemed like it was a more muscular, physical presentation. What exactly accounts for the difference?
I suppose a lot of the difference is really to do with confidence, growing as a performer, that kind of thing. And wanting to make the show a lot harder than before. A lot of it before was quite fey, I think, and quite mannered. And I really think that the power of the band got kind of lost within that. When the band was very early, when it very first started, we were almost like a punk band. It's really kind of getting back to a lot more aggressive, a lot more aggression in the music. Not losing the subtlety as well. I mean, we used to have, ballads and stuff as well, but getting back to that again.
まあ前回はなんかどちらかというとその意識過剰気味な部分があって、でそこでパワーがちょっと漏れてしまったという結果があったと思うんだけれども、もともとパンクスピリッツ非常にこう色濃く出すバンドなんだね、ルーツといえば、でだんだんとそういうルーツに戻りつつあると思うので、そういう辺、それに伴うアグレッシブな部分も徐々に生きてきてるんじゃないかと。
あ、そうなんだ。で、前のツアーってちょっと意識過剰だとか、かっこつけすぎだとか、そんなことを言われたりしたってことはあったんですか？
So you think people were actually saying that you were vague and mannered before? Was that something that was pointed out to you and you decided to change things? Or was that something sort of
it's nothing I'm shy away from at all. It's part there's a side to me that's quite fey or whatever. But when you're kind of like, when you're coming back to a country again and again, there's pointless doing this exactly the same sort of tour. I just wanted the tour to be slightly different this time. And the kind of way I feel about the music as well. I just wanted to. It's just how you kind of like naturally evolve, really. It's not a kind of a reaction to criticism or anything like that. I mean, if you just spent your life reacting against criticism, you'd end up losing your mind. I'm not really kind of particularly swayed by criticism. It's the way you naturally change.
批判を受けて変わるもんかってそうやってしまうんだけれども、それでもともと自分の中で格好をつけるような部分があって、それ未だに変わらずにあるんだけれども、それはずっと同じ国にね何度も訪れることになると、いつも同じような調子じゃ飽きられちゃうので、意識的にね変わっていこうっていう意識はある。
その一方でね、ステージの演奏からもそれからニューレコードからも感じたんだけども、ただ単にそのモードが変わったってことじゃなくて、バンドが一丸となっている印象を非常に強く最近受ける。バンドが一丸となっている、という印象を強く受けるんだけれども、どうなんでしょう。
Seems to get the feeling that one of the things that's changing your stage presentation, and in fact the music you're actually recording, is the fact that perhaps the band is becoming more of a cohesive, a solid unit. Is that happening as well?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it's definitely true. We're much more unified as a band. The band was becoming very much, when Bernard was in the band, it was becoming very much two members. Kind of like, and the rest of the band, the actual sense of being in a band was getting completely obliterated, and very much with introducing Richard to the band, I very much wanted to get back the idea of being in a band, which is how it all started in the first place, because what happens when you get involved in music, things get sort of distorted and disfigured and stuff as you go along, and you forget the whole point of it in the first place, So it's very much so, yeah, very conscious of that.
Sorry, I've got some cool stuff. Sorry,
Sit down, Simon.
I'll sit down with you.
彼も参加。
Sit down and enjoy yourself.
Someone Steve, the interpreter.
So you can listen to me straight down.
Sorry, it's alright, I thought you wanted to phone me station.
まさにその通りで、バーナードが今までいた頃っていうのはフロントマンが2人っていう印象が非常に強くなってたんじゃないかと思うんだけど、もともとこれはバンドでやっていこうっていう意識が非常に強かったので、今回リチャードを感じさせることによってそういう原点に意識的に戻ろうという意図があったわけです。
なるほどね。リチャード・オークス君の今のステージパフォーマンスとギタープレイの点数をあなたがつけるとすると何点ぐらい差し上げられますか？
100点満点で？It might be kind of a difficult question, but Simon, we were talking about how the band has been changing, and Brett was just pointing out that it's become more of a band, whereas it was like it was getting more to be more and more of a two-man show before. And our interviewer was just asking, how would you rate Richard's performance in terms of his stage presence and his guitar playing? I mean, if you could assign a number of points to it out of a total of 100, how many points would you give it? Nasty
I mean,
question.
Brett, he's looking at points go up every day, really. The confidence he gets. At first, he was pretty shit or something. When he first went on Roberts and first time on the stage, but, you know, it gets there every day, gets a little more confidence in himself. And playing with the band and stuff.
So would you...
What number are you on at the moment?
what number is he on now?
We're about 80 at the moment. We're 80 at the moment. Getting better. It's like, it's pretty big shoes to fill, really. And I think he's done incredibly well. You know, he's a very capable bloke, and he isn't freaked out by it at all. And every day, I think, you know, when he now started writing as well, that helps a hell of a lot, because he starts to develop his own style and stuff like that, and he starts becoming his own person rather than a replacement, which is very important. But he's doing brilliantly, I think. That's great.
バーナードの後が
素晴らしいと。
バーナードの後がも期待される部分が多いんだけれども、それに負けずに自信が湧いてきてるし、自分の自分の個性を非常にうまく出せてるので、しかもその作曲プロセスに参加することが非常に大きな効果を生み出してるんじゃないかと。
なるほど、そうですね。まさにその通り
で、
です。
今のところ80点を上げようと。
It's very important for him and for the band that he becomes his own person. He has his own thoughts and stuff like that, and he's getting into that mode completely now. He's got ambitions about writing and stuff like that, and whereas before he was kind of like playing the parts and stuff like that, and now he's got completely ambitions of his own, which is excellent.
彼自身のアイデンティティを確立することが非常に大きな課題として考えているんだけども、その作曲できるようになったことは非常に大きいと思う。というのは、今まではその与えられたパートだけを話したので。
はいはいはい。なるほどね。じゃあ足りない 20% っていうのはそういう。あ、このためのこと？何が？あ、同席？あ、いいですよ。いいってことで。伝えておりましたから。じゃあ足りない 20% って何なの？
So you gave him an 80. What are the 20 points he's lacking?
Well, I mean, I don't know.
It was 79.
It's kind of splitting hairs, really. You know, like, there's bound to be a certain amount of inexperience. I don't think anyone could get 100 out of 100. You know, so it'd be impossible because he's playing a set of songs that he didn't write at the moment, which he won't be soon because we're going to write a whole new album soon. He's playing songs that he didn't write and stuff like that, so it's bound to be a discrepancy there, you know, it's an impossible void. I think for the size of the task that he's got, I think he doesn't fucking brilliantly.
経験のなさっていうのは。
わかりました、いいです。バーナードの後釜っていうことでね、それが17歳の少年と、これ凄まじいプレッシャーがあったはずなんですよ、美使いも全然知らない。で、そのプレッシャーをね、あなたは当然その、ケアするっていうか、まあ、排除してあげるべく配慮してあげる部分があると思うんですが、どんなところでそういう配慮をしてあげていますか？
As has been mentioned thus far, which has been given the unenviable task of filling Bernard's shoes, and he joined the band at 17 years old.
Yeah.
How do you go about making his job easier for him, making it fit in better? Take the piss out of him. You would think it'd be the opposite.
Yeah.
I mean, don't you have to kind of make sure he doesn't get the wrong impression? You're not.
Well, we don't treat him with gloves. It'd be wrong to do that, because it would that it wouldn't really give him a false sense of. We don't want to mother him, and if he mothered him, wouldn't think he'd be able to have his own person. You don't feel like we kind of advise him, but without sounding patronising. Do you know what I mean? It's like you kind of like. Of course, we could sit him down and say, "Do this and don't do that." Then he could just follow a set of orders, and he's got to become. It's important to become his own person. So you've got to kind of, you just sort of say, "Oh, that was cool," or "That was, you should have done that," or whatever. But not sound like some stupid teacher. It's different. We haven't really got a set of rules with him. He's become our friend now, and it's great. And we've been working in the studio, and we've been on a lot of the tour now, and he feels like a completely member of the band. That's the only thing I could say that would make him, that you might try and make him fit in. Just act naturally, really.
どんなことを配慮してあげてるか。
なるべく手加減なしに使おうと思います。今過保護すると新米が育たないし、そこでなるべくあんまりこう先生ぶらずにさりげなくあれがいいとかあれがいいとか、その辺のアドバイスを適切に耐えてる。であとはバンドメンバーとして完全に100% 受け入れられてる実感を与えること。
なるほどね。彼の方から何か積極的に教えてくれとか言ってくることってあるんですか？
Does Richard actually ask for counseling or advice or?
No, he doesn't. He knows exactly what he wants to do and things like that. He's not. It's very misleading when people hear that he's 18 years old because he just isn't that. He's one of these people that he's almost like 45 or something. He's much more mature than I am. The rest of the band are sitting there pissing around his lippers going,
Supposed to grow up.
He doesn't ask for anything like that. He's very sorted. It sounds strange that we've suddenly got this guy who's 18 in the band and people think, well, what the fuck are they playing? But the reason we got him in was because he isn't like an 18-year-old at all.
わかりました。さっきも話が出たんだけど、そのバーナードとの共作がね、早くも2曲、ベンズ・ボーイズっていう曲と、それから Together っていう曲があって、これ2曲でももう、I think two songs is so wonderful なんだけど、バーナードとの共作？
リチャード。
リチャード。リチャード。
バーナード。
そう。リチャードとのその共作が素晴らしいんだよ。で、これは新生スウェードと言っていいと思うかっていうのが一つの質問。もう一つは、バーナードの時と比べて、コラボレーションの方法っていうのはどういうふうに変わりましたか？
He is quite impressed with the 2 new songs you guys have penned with Richard. So impressed that he tried to switch to English there. This confused us all. He was wondering would it be legit? This sort of not together.
Together and Ben together.
Okay. And the 2 questions are: 1, can we start using monikers like the new Suede? And 2, are collaborations with Richard different than collaborations with, say, Bernard or collaborations with
Yeah, that goes back. I mean, the collaborations that we've had so far, it's difficult to tell right at this moment, but I mean, it's been much more of a band effort. The band it's been a band affair, it's been like, we've gone into the studio and we've sort of jammed out the tracks and we've acted like a band. I think you can tell, it's a definite feeling of the band. But we've got a huge amount of ambition about the next album. I can't wait to get into the next album. I think after a while a band there's a danger of it getting stale. That's what happened with the last band. We exhausted all the possibilities within the lineup with the last band. So the next, it's incredibly exciting. We've just been in the studio just recently and just knocked out a couple of tracks. We haven't even had that much time in the studio, but what we've actually managed to produce so far has been ace. I mean,
it's better in the studio now. So jam it really, and it's sort of it's more our own stuff. It's more the bass player, more the drummers. Feel a lot more confidence doing what we want to do.
It's more organic now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Act 2 rather than New Suede.
It's New Suede, but it's like it kind of doesn't really need that tag really. It's this way. It's Suede has been through lots of changes, and the public only really know it as one. There's 2 lineups, the new one and the old one, but there's been so many other different changes throughout its history. But it's kind of, it doesn't really feel like Act 1 and Act 2 for me. It sort of feels like it's Act 5.
Really, because
we've just been through so many lineups.
I see. Oh, I see. So you're saying public perception, your perception of
yeah, we've had like 4 different guitarists now on and off, coming and going. 3 different drummers. We have some of the 3rd drummer we had in the band. I mean, those were early days and stuff. And of course, Chan was the drummer in the band, and that's the way it is. But it's like, I'm just trying to explain it. It's like the band's been through so many changes and stuff.
最後の言ってること大体ね、I can understand your English なんだけど、I can understand your English なんだけど、Yeah. Oh, good. ずっと言ってることわかんないんだけど、はい、なんて言うんですか？
ちょっと今頭の中で整理してる。
なんかスタジオでジャムることができるから、そういうほら、バーナードみたいに昔から作ってきてバーンと出すっていうんじゃないっていう。
だからよりなんていうか有機的に機能できるようになったっていう。 要するにこうみんながそれぞれのポジションにはまってきたっていう意識が非常に強いので、それぞれの自分のなんていうかな、こう持ち味を出せてると。で一方ではブレッドはまあ新生スウェードと言われても別にまあ構わないんだけど、ただ自分の認識としてはまあいろんなラインナップを今経てきてるから、まあ皆さんおそらくまあ第2の局面に入ってると思うのかもしれないんだけども、自分たちは大体第5ぐらい第5章ぐらいに入ってるかなと。いろんなギタリストとかドラマーを使ってきてるので、あともう一つは何だっけ、質問は2つあったよね。
だからコラボレーションの方法で、コラボレーションの方法は昔とどう変わったか。
変わったね。
変わった。
変わった。
大きく変わった。
今言おうと思ったんだけど忘れた。So we translate this later usually.
Okay. じゃあ、ところでね、今ドッグマンスターという、セカンドアルバムを振り返ってみるとどういう感じになりますか。というのはあれは非常にその優雅なアルバムだったんだけれども、その初期のスウェードが持っていたワイ雑さ、攻撃性というものが消えてしまったというふうな、そういう見方もできるアルバムだったと思います。そういう点について、今はどういうふうに位置づけているのか聞きたい。
I was wondering, some time has elapsed since the release of Dogman Star, and what he has seen thus far of people's reactions to it is that they seem to think it's a very elegant effort, yet lacking perhaps the aggressiveness or what you might call the lewdness of the first album. How about from your own perspectives, now that you've had time to sort of reevaluate Dogman Star, what do you think of it now? How do you size it up and evaluate it?
I disagree with that. I think it's elegant, but I think it's got everything really. I think it's quite perfect in lots of ways. I think in the way that in which it's probably the only chink in its armour, I say, is quite difficult to get into. It's quite murky and it's quite uninviting at first. You might think that lots of the sounds and stuff are quite hostile and stuff like that, but it's certainly not lacking any rudeness. It takes you to every kind of like every level on the plane of Suede sort of spectrum really for me. And it's one of those albums that I've always loved. It's an album I've always wanted to make, and it takes you on a trip. It takes you on a definite journey. It's like something like Sgt. Pepper's or something like that, where it takes you everywhere. It drags you into it, and once you start at the start, you've got to finish at the end. You can't just sort of skip around and stuff. So it's got very definite points. And the next album will be completely different. I will make the next album a lot simpler, a lot poppier, probably a lot more direct and a lot more accessible. But I think for what it is, I think it's pretty good. I'm quite proud of it.
まあ大いに反応したいと。で、それは確かに優雅なものだし、しかもそのスウェーデが持っている部分が全てカバーされている。雑多な内容になっていると思う。で、自分がずっと作りたかった作品でもあると思う。というのはサージェント・ペパーのように大きな旅をするような、そういう感じがするような。だけど飛ばしって絶対聞けないんで途中から、途中からこうやめたりしてはいけないっていう、そういうアルバムになっている。
I mean, there's elegant parts. It's got elegant parts to it. Like, for example, the last 4 songs are very slow and they kind of like use orchestration and stuff like that. There's a hell of a lot of it that's very rough and raw. I mean, kind of like nearly half of the songs are just kind of guitar bass and drums and things like that. There's a lot of quite thrashy elements to it. But it's kind of when people look at an album, they tend to pick on something that they can put a tag on it. Oh, this is the orchestrated album, or this is the album. Blah blah. For me, this album is kind of like it's got so many different things.
一つ言わ忘れてたけども、唯一の欠点は、あるとすれば、とっつきにくいところ、ちょっとこう親しみにくい第一印象としては、そういう部分があるので、その反省を踏まえて、次のところにもっとポップなものを作りたいと。で、今の発言なんだけども、最後の4曲にオーケストラ付きのものも入ってるので、じゃあ非常に短絡的な考え方をする人は、じゃあスウィングス好きのアルバムだっていうふうに表現するのかもしれないんだけども、同時にそのローで生々しいギター中心の曲もあるので、そういう見方はちょっと安易ではないか。
だけどその人々の心を逆なでしていくようなね、 そういう曲というのはWe Are the Pigs 1曲だけだったと思うんだけど、どうですか？
The only song that would really make people's hair stand on edge or possibly offend them is We Are the Pigs. I.e. in comparison to the first album, which would be a little bit more, how should we say, challenging, more challenging to
Let me think about that one. Yeah, I suppose that's quite, some sort of deals with violence and stuff like that, but there's a lot of violent things in it, there's a lot of sexuality on the album, so it's songs like this Hollywood Life and heroin and things like that. So it's very much like that. I don't agree that's the only song on the album that would challenge people. So.
ちょっと違うんだよね。他に、暴力を描いてるのは、ハリウッド
ハリウッドライフ。
はい。
This Harid Life。
っていうのもありますから、ちょっと違うんじゃないかな。
違うんじゃないかと。なるほどね。じゃあとにかくあれですね。一部の欠点はあったんですけど、スウェードの違う側面を見せたというアルバムなのか、それともその一つの進化の形態として捉えているのか、どっちなんですか？
Do you think we could see it in these terms? So, was Dogman Star a way of showing a new side of Suede, or was it more or less just a stage in your evolution?
Stage in the evolution, really. It was just an attempt to just try and make a huge fucking sort of sprawling sort of beast, that went in every direction, really, just to explore every possibility. It was really kind of like a real attempt at making a really excellent album. It wasn't supposed to be, I wasn't lazy at all. I actually spent let myself off for 6 months writing and just kind of explored every possibility in my mind and went completely mad and stuff, It was just a real go for it, really trying to go for it, trying to make an album that covered every base,
そのバンドが
完全に進化している形態の一枚だということですね。
ということで、しかも端的に言えば大胆な意欲作だと、非常に意識的にそういったものを作る。
なるほど。じゃあね、こういうアングルから聞いてみたいんですけども、スウェードの曲というのはね、ドラウナーズの時からデビュー作、ドラウナーズの時からその一貫してその自分が自分じゃなくなってしまうっていう、そういう恐怖、脅迫観念とか。そういう自分が自分じゃなくなってしまうっていう一歩手前のね、そういうパニック状態を描いたものが多くて、そこに我々はなんか心がかきむしられるような、そういう美を感じる、構造ができていたと思うんですね。で、こういうのはもうちょっと保守的な聞き手ということになってしまうんだろうか。
最後は
保守的な聞き手、だから俺はそのドラウナーズから続いているスウェードの魅力の一つというのは、そういうその自分が自分じゃなくなっちゃうっていう、なんか胸がかきむしられるようなそういう気持ちにあったと思っているんだけども、そういうのはやっぱり保守的な聞き手をね、一番のその初期のイメージに手張り付いてるそういう悪いやつでしょうか。
He was wondering, maybe his view. Yeah, okay, one last question and we'll pick this up when we get there. His view of the band might be somewhat one-dimensional because he sees you in terms of the initial impressions he had at the time of drowning, i.e. a band that writes about characters who are always kind of on the edge, tottering on the edge, just about to lose it. And he said that's what listeners at the time found compelling. Do you think that the listeners should evolve in the same way that the band has evolved and sort of get over that and move on to the next stage?
Yeah, too, but I think there's a lot of that. You can't really. It's like sort of trying to change your face or something like that. It's quite difficult, really. No matter what makeup you put on or whatever, you're still going to have to basically the same face. And the songs on this album are pretty much about the same sort of things. I always write about the same things, but they kind of play it in different ways. And the same sort of themes always crop their heads up. So I don't need to sort of like completely do an about face, and we're not suddenly the Beastie Boys or something like that. We're still Suede. We still write about the same things, but every band changes and evolves. I don't think the songs on the topics are kind of like essentially that different to the topics on the first album. They all deal with the same sort of things like obsession and death and sex and that kind of shit.
じゃあ
今のところ重要な気がするんだけど。
はい。で、その前に会社を行かなきゃいけないから。いいの？
だからいいんだって、やっててもらって OK だって。
ああ、そう。基本的にはまあ変わってないと、自分では思うんだけれども、
なるほど。
今その共和観念とかの愛とか死とか、そういったものを相変わらずテーマとして取り上げてるし、でまあそう思われても別にいいんじゃないのって。
I don't really think that themes, actually changing themes, actually alienates anyone or confuses anyone. I think the key to taking any audience along with you is the sounds, really. They're just writing good tunes. I think that's ultimately what it's down to, really. I think themes are a secondary thing, that there's a section of the audience that are really into it, but, you know, it's basically down to a good tune. If you can knock out a good tune, it's...
曲の題材にしてもね、ファンがついてくるかどうかっていうのは曲の良さにかかるので、曲がいいか悪いか、曲の質がね、だから別にまあ題材は何か取り上げても同じじゃないの、そういう意味では。
あなたはそのなぜその脅迫観念とかね、その自分を失ってしまいそうな、パニック状態とかそういったものに取りつかれるんですよ、題材として。
What are we to make of your obsession with obsession? People who are sort of, like you said, we're tottering on the edge, but why is that a recurring theme?
I don't know. I really couldn't answer that.
Just something that
you realise yourself up to a point, and then what can you say? I mean, why is your hair this colour? I don't know. It's something uninteresting. It's extremity. Like music for me is always about extremity, emotions or whatever. You know, it's an extreme human situation where someone's obsessed with.
So when you say music is about extremities, what do you mean?
Yeah, it's for me. Extreme emotions and stuff like that. Yeah. Whether that's beauty or lust or whatever. Was that right? Yeah. I think we're going to have to sound check. We should pick this up later.
Yeah.
もう終わり。ありがとう。
続きは会場で。
Right.
Yeah, sure. Okay, we'll see you later.
Right. We'll see you later.
See you later.
Graham. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll go.
Alright, thank you very much.
Alright, we'll see you later.
Alright, see you in a bit, yeah?
See you later.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
半分笑って半分外れたな。もう行かなきゃいけないって言っちゃった。
今のは
そうだ。昔インタビューの時にあなたは、ポップスターというのは降りることのできない高速道路を全速力で突っ走ってるようなもんだというふうに定義したことがあります。でこの発言は非常に私は感動しましたし、それからそういうあなたの真面目さというのも高く評価します。しかしどうもそのグランジ以降、あるいはイギリスでもどうも肩に力を入れないで自然体でやるということがなんかトレンドになっているような節がある。そういう意味でそのあなたというのはなんか力が入りすぎだというふうな形で排除されていくようなところってないんですか？
But when he talked to you before, you had said something to the effect about stardom. You likened it to going down the expressway at full speed and not being able to get off of it. That's what stardom was all about, you were saying.
Yeah.
Like being on the expressway going at full speed, pedal to the metal. I was wondering, since that time, since your first album, the music scene has gone through various changes. One of the more significant being grunge or performers not being as concerned with stardom, not being as concerned with affectation. Do you worry about your own approach? Is there a risk of your being swept aside as a person who's too concerned with the stardom side of music?
No, because I don't really give a shit about stardom actually. It's more to do with I don't know, being as good as you possibly can. I think that's probably where people confuse it. People assume we're obsessed with stardom and we're sort of like star sluts, and we're not at all. We just like being very extreme in the kind of music we do. I think there's a lot of fakes in the music business. I think there's a lot of people that are much more concerned with stardom than they like to believe. And it's like the idea of looking good or whatever. You know, we buy clothes and we want to look good and stuff like that. So what? It's just as much of a style, deciding that you haven't got a style. Do you know what I mean? And grunge is just as much of a style as a glam is or anything like that. You know. So I don't really see it like that. as to being not fitting into the scene at the moment, I can't think of anything better than not fitting in. I think it's a massive massive positive thing not to fit in with anything. I like being completely out of step, because I think there's always place for someone who's completely out of step. I think it's great. I think if you took us, if you eradicated us from the music scene, it'd become incredibly sad, I think.
So yeah, I was just carry on from that then.
Okay.スターダムのことで頭がいっぱいっていうアーティストがいっぱいいるんだけども、そういう連中とね、まあ一緒にされては困ると。偽物のスターとか、まあその偽物のアーティストがたくさんいる中では、自分はあくまでもまあその連中と違うというふうに実してると。で、あとはまあそれはいい格好はしたいよ。それは魅力的なね、スタイルでみんなに見せたいと。ただしそれとスターダムのことで頭がいっぱいになるとは違う。
なるほど。
で、あとはまあシーンから排除されるっていうことは、それで一向に構わないと。
なるほど。
まあシーンにね、歩調を合わせる人が合わせる必要になってきます。
なるほど。じゃああなたにとってそのポップスターっていうのは、何なんでしょう。その人々のなんかの触媒になるようなそういう存在のことを指しますか。
So what is being a pop star for you then? Is it just an occupation then? Or?
Not so, no. It's a best thing, for me it's the best thing anyone can do in the world. I love it. I don't mean I'm not when I say I don't give a shit about start, I don't give a shit about the superficial side of it at all. I'm actually consider myself a songwriter and a singer. And that's what I love. I love songwriting and singing. I don't mean I don't give a shit about that. But the kind of things that, the trappings that come along with it, you know, I'm not particularly obsessed with them. It's just a means to an end. You know, you have to have your face appearing in a magazine. You have to appear on TV, all that kind of stuff to get your music heard. And that's the thing that counts.
So you mean all you're concerned with is being a musician, as best a musician as possible?
I don't know. You know, I'm not kind of. Yeah, I suppose so. I'm obsessed with music. I'm obsessed with making great records. Yeah, and being a great band. Yeah, but part of being a great band is image and stuff like that as well. But you know, it's not. It's never a victory of style over content. It's always the other way around.
まあそれはトップスターということはもう世界最高の職業だと思ってる。というのは自分がね重要だと思うのは音楽といい歌を歌い、いい歌を歌う。それの意味で、それに気づいてる仕事を例えばマシンベルトとか、やむを得ないと。あくまでもやむを得ないことをやってね、別にそれが全てじゃないと。
なんかその、特別な人間として人々に崇められるということ自体にすごく意味があるとは思いませんか。例えばそういうことによってね、音楽が特別な力を持っていくとか、そのキャラクターによって音楽がより増幅されていくとか、そういう面において考えることはありませんか。
Agree that there's significance in being almost sort of worshipped by others, and that obviously the music has some sort of a power or a positive effect on them. So there must be a significant side in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we make the sort of music that people, like we were talking about obsession earlier, and we make the sort of music that kind of feeds those kind of obsessions, and that's very conscious, but yeah, I'm quite aware of that, and I'm quite aware of the importance of people sort of like looking at you from afar and stuff like that, you know. We never kind of get too close and stuff. We're not a sort of pally, chummy band that kind of like, you know, I'm aware of that, yeah. I'm aware there's that division.
But is that a significant thing to you, or is that something that just comes with the territory? Or?
It's something, nothing I can really do about it. It's like the sort of music we make.
俺は一般人と同じもうごく普通のね人間だってもう答えなんか持ってないし、もうその辺で聞いてる人間とまるっきり同じなんだっていうことをね、例えば、エディ・ベイダーなんか言ったりするわけじゃない。もうああいう言い方というのはその音楽に関わってるものとしてはやっぱり言うべきじゃないと思いますか。
How about say in comparison, you get groups like Pearl Jam or Eddie Vedder talking about how he's just a normal guy without the answers, and he doesn't really want to be viewed, or he doesn't want to be idolized. Is that a valid standpoint?
Well, he has the privilege to say that because he sells 20 million records. I think it would probably be different if he did work in a garage or did work as a petrol pump attendant.
sure he didn't say that in the beginning when he started as well. When he first started out, I'm sure he didn't go around saying, "Oh, I don't want to, I don't want to start him."
So you're saying it's just a privilege and it's not valid then?
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't want to be worshipped, then he should go and become a plumber. It's true though, you know.
200万も売ってくるなんだけど。
するんですよ。だからそれだけのもう大量のストレスを誇る人だから、まあそういう人になって初めてそういうことを言い出すんであってね、それは普通の修理工場で働いてるやつがもしそれを言われたら最初のまあ栄養だと。だからもし彼がねそういう一般人になりたければじゃあやめろと私は言いたい。
なるほど。そうか。じゃあやっぱりあなたにとってはそのポップスターロックスターというのはやっぱり、特別な存在になっているべきないってことですね。
そうやるべきだっていう。So you are of the opinion that a rock star or a pop star should be something special, something different, something.
No, I'm of the opinion that a rock star should make great music. Their personality is totally secondary, you know. You take someone like Paul Weller or something like that. He was a great rock star. He wasn't something that set himself apart. I'm not saying you have to. But it's different strokes. You know what I mean? It takes all sorts. Music is the thing that has to come first. If you make great music, you immediately kind of like deify yourself, and so how you act is completely irrelevant, really. I'm not on some star trip that I'm after some sort of untouchable goal of being some idol or something like that. I happen to be in love with music, and so make it. And it's part of the deal, really, you know.
じゃあ昔のそのデビッド・ボーイみたいなグラマラスなね、グラマラスでそれカリスマ性も持ってるという人はのことは、でもやっぱり尊敬してるわけでしょ。
So you, with a good example of an artist you respect, be somebody like Bowie, who is both charismatic and glamorous and every inch the pop star, the classic pop star.
I respect anyone that makes great music. You know, it doesn't have to fit into a certain category. People, yeah, Bedbury's great. But, you know, someone like Neil Young, I think is brilliant as well. Or Johnny Rotten, you know, it's like, I just love, you know, music that just inspires. The personality behind it is sort of irrelevant, really. I mean, I'm not interested in the cult of personality at all. Because great music, like I said, creates its own personality. You listen to something that's great and you automatically have a huge amount of awe and respect for the person who made it, no matter what they're like. And if they're tramp or something like that, if some tramp made Hunky Dory, then I'd want to know about them, you know.
じゃあ次の質問。去年の、イギリスの人気投票なんか見ると、とにかくそのブラード・オアシスが、すごく人気高くて、でスウェードなんか3番目だったっていうふうな感覚があるんだけれども、これはもう一時的な現象で近いうちにこれをもう完璧に逆転してやるという自信はありますね。
In the UK there have been readers polls that have resulted in Blur, Oasis coming out on top, and Suede maybe coming in third place or so. Is this something that's are you gonna turn the tables in the not too distant future, or is it something you don't pay attention to?
Regarding that, it's probably up to the press, isn't it?
Like readers polls.
Yeah, well, I know, yeah, but I mean, they've had the most request, so... Yeah,
you think that they manipulate time?
Yeah, of course it is. It's just swings and roundabouts. Last year we've got top of the polls. This year someone else, next year might be someone else, next year might be us. It's swings and roundabouts. You can't worry about crap like that. That's really getting involved with the small-minded side of the business, I think, and it's something I don't really care to even think about. That's music as fashion in the extreme, and I'm not interested in that at all.
ブラード・オアシスについてはすごく意味がある音楽だと思いますか？意味がある音楽だと思うか？
Do you think those bands are making meaningful music though, the Blues and the Oasis?
Are they making what?
Meaningful music?
Meaningful for some people, yeah, I guess. It must be. Pop music. Kylie Minogue makes meaningful music in that she makes pop music which people like and buy. So it's meaningful in that way. It doesn't have to be profound. Yeah, why not?
あなた個人にとって。
今聞いた。それは、ある意味はあるんじゃないの？人がそれを聞いて買って
だからあなた個人にとってはどうなんだよ。
How about you personally though? Is that personally? Is that music that has significance?
I don't know any of their music, so I couldn't comment. I haven't listened to either of their albums.
Not to a couple of Oasis tracks, but I think they're more concerned with the scene rather than the music side of it. They're more concerned with, you know, the whole sort of the other side of the music business. Irrelevant, yeah. Who's sleeping with who and who's going to which parties and things like that. You know. It's completely irrelevant.
わかりました。じゃああと2つ質問。
Two more questions.
そうですね。エラスティカの曲の中に See That Animal という曲があるんですけども、See That Animal。
See that animal.
See that animal gets
こ
never.
れジャスティンとの創作なんだけども、これっていつやったんですか？
You co-wrote that with Justine?
Yeah,
When did you write it?
it was originally a Suede track called Going Blonde.
Going Blonde.
We used to play it in the very, very early days, like 1990, 1989. And when Justine left the band, she really liked the words to it, so she took the words and put them into another song. So I wrote the words. I didn't kind of collaborate with her and sit down and say, but she just took the words from an old Suede song. So.
She was in Suede for
Yeah,
that?
she used to be in Suede.
あなたと彼女とはでも未だにすごくいい友人関係を持ってるみたいですね。
Are you still good friends with Justine?
Very good friends, yeah. Good friend of mine.
その辺がやっぱりあなたは偉いというか、大人だなと。でほら別れてさ、ねえねえ。
Okay, he hit me with a curveball because he was saying, oh, that's very big of you. And I said, what do you mean by that? He said, because you had broken up with her or something?
Yeah, I used to go out with her. We used to go out with her. We lived with each other for 4 years.
Oh, I see. But you just...
Yeah, no, she's a good friend of mine, yeah. Yeah. Everyone you split up with doesn't have to end up as your enemy, do they? She's great.
He works out that way, though.
Yeah, sometimes does. Depends what they're like, doesn't it? If you're good friends with someone, when you're going out with them, you're usually good friends with them afterwards.
まあこう
はい、いいですよ。じゃあね、最後にこれはね、非常に聞きたい質問だったんだけど、あなたはそのいつもすごいステージでもインタビューの現場でも凄まじいハイテンションを私は感じるわけですよ。それで自分が一番リラックスするとき、そして自分のことを情けないやつだな俺はと思いながら頭をポリポリとかくとき、この2つの場合をそれぞれ教えてください。
But he says that he interviews and even
I'm fine with it.
on stage or even interviews, you give off sort of an aura of this, he uses the word high tension, you know, it's a sort of, you radiate a certain tension, your personality, your demeanor. He was saying, is there any time when you are like just totally slack, relaxed?
When I'm asleep. I'm quite a tense person, you know. Yeah, especially when I'm drunk out of my face, and when I'm asleep are the only two times when I relax. Really, the rest of the time I'm thinking about songs or something like that.
自分はない自分が情けないと。
そう、自分が本当に情けないやつだなと思ってポリポリと自分の頭をかいてみたりとか、そういう時。
Is there ever any time when you kind of sit back and think to yourself, nah, I got it all wrong. I'm not doing this right. I'm not the kind of person I should be.
I sit down every day and think, fucking hell, you know, I'm having a horrible time, you know, but everyone does with everything they do, you know, especially when you're in tour, you feel like shit all the time and stuff.
So I guess
You can't not be the sort of person you are though, can you? You either are someone or you're not, you can't really change that.
So you don't ever feel a loss of confidence thinking, you know, it's just gonna all end?
I don't feel ever lost confidence.
自信がなくなって泣き出したりすることないんですか？
Never feel a lack of confidence to the point where you would want to cry? I guess not.
I haven't cried for about 5 years. So, no.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.